action. So welcome to the end of year finale, season 6, episode 3 of Entangled Discussions, Entangling the Old and the New. So for those of you who are new to the talks, we're a friendly, inclusive group and we encourage interaction. Natalie Hills, my colleague at Entangled Positions, is helping manage the audience input. So please use the chat box for any questions or observations along the way. For those comfortable taking the mic, there will be an opportunity to join the conversation during the event. These talks are recorded and they go on to our Entangled Discussions YouTube channel, as well as being shared on LinkedIn. We're changing the way we administer these talks slightly, so please follow Entangled Positions on LinkedIn and YouTube to make sure you stay up to date. So over this year, we've been lucky enough to explore a whole myriad of different themes, and for this end of year bonanza, we're lucky to have 3 wonderful guests return to share their experiences and their predictions as well. So we do have a diverse mix of knowledge, locations, skills, and vantage points. So promises to be a really fun and interesting discussion. And without further ado, it's a pleasure to introduce Anisha Musti of Community, Emmanuel Colonella of Quantum London, and Sahar Ben Rashed of Q Tunisia. So with this format, the topics that only get revealed as we go along. So it creates a spontaneous conversations with no safety nets. Fortunately, we talk quantum because we are quantum. So welcome one, welcome all. And if we can begin in alphabetical order, Anisha, if you can start by sharing an observation you have from your year in quantum.
Yeah, definitely. So this is one of my first years in quantum because I've only been in the space for around a year and a half. And my favorite realization is I just realized the community is so small and interconnected. Like there's not that many people in it, and it feels like almost like everyone knows everyone, and I love that. I think it's great. Like you'll talk to John who's like, oh wait, I know that person, the same person you just talked to. And not only is it so small and interconnected, it's also very supportive, and you make a ton of great friends.
Yeah, and I think that is something that's hugely important. And it's interesting because once you scratch the surface, you find that you make these bonds and they lead on to other bonds. And I think that's both important but also heartwarming as well. So Emmanuel, if you'd like to come in and share a little bit about your year as well, please.
Yeah, sure. So I think the thing I noticed the most is the amount of interest around the topic and the amount of communities that have been born around the world. If a couple of years ago there was just a bunch of people talking about quantum, being interested, the number of people who are getting interested and want to know more has increased significantly, as well as the number of communities. I think we are still at this stage where everyone is a competitive, but not just yet, right? So there's a lot of people who are willing to share. So the number of communities that are born this year has been phenomenal. So it's a pleasure to be involved in so many conversations and see so many different groups starting to share and spread the word about something we are all passionate about.
Yeah, and 100% concur. Actually, that kind of pre-competitive stage. It's good while it lasts, and hopefully some of the bonds created will still remain as things commercialize further and further. And Sahar as well, if we can take your vantage point as well to kick us off.
Sure. So first of all, thank you so much, John, for having me again on Entangled Discussions. It's always a pleasure to join you and everyone who's present today. So I think for the year of 2021, it was a very interesting year for the quantum computing field and the community overall. So as Anisha and Emmanuel have already pointed out, that the community is continuing to extend and so many events are going on, and everyone is very supportive and very willing to share their knowledge and their expertise to help everyone grow within the field. And that's, I think, one of the most interesting aspects about the community that we're growing in quantum computing. But aside from the community and the events and everyone involved, I would say it's a very interesting year as we have seen the development of quantum technologies really taking off. So we have seen very interesting and very important milestones being reached this year, both on the hardware development side and also on the software development side. So we have seen so many important achievements in terms of enhancing the hardware and also improving the technologies already being investigated. And also we've seen the first commercial products of quantum computing this year. I think that's a very important milestone that we have reached this year. And from this point on, I'm expecting the next year to be even full of surprises, and we'll be seeing more products being developed and commercially available. And I truly look forward to see what the research institutes, but also companies, what they are working on and what they will be producing next year. So I'm very happy to be part of this community, and I really look forward to also contribute more to the extension of the community, but also being part of the products that will be released.
And I think as well, as someone that's got a multidisciplinary background, has changed not just countries but continents this year, and is also heavily involved both individually and with Q Tunisia on the community side of things. I'd love to sort of expand a little bit on some of those themes and find out a little bit more about the sort of things that you've been doing and how that manifests itself for you.
Oh, sorry, that question was for me, John.
Yeah, please.
Okay. So for Q Tunisia this year, we have held most of our events, be it workshops, but also quantum talks, to concentrate more of what Tunisians are doing for the quantum field. So we have hosted mainly experts from Tunisia to talk about their research results, but also their companies that they are developing in Tunisia and abroad. We have also hosted a few African experts talk also about their work, and we are also working on the let's say education part mostly in Q Tunisia. So we have held workshops, and we have also reached out to many communities in Africa and also in other continents in order to collaborate with them and help them establish their own communities. So I would say this year was quite successful, as we have seen many people being interested in the field, but also joining. So we have seen many Tunisians being part of the challenges, mainly hosted by IBM, but also other companies and other associations. We have seen Tunisians also winning these competitions and finally releasing products and let's say prototypes of the use of quantum computing in different fields. And the interesting thing also is seeing people reaching out and looking for formal education. So they're looking for programs to integrate, be it in Tunisia or abroad, in order to enhance their knowledge in quantum computing. And they are seriously considering to have it as a field to work within someday. So I think that's also one of the most interesting things to see, is that we have Tunisians that are really interested in the field and want to be part of the industry and become researchers or developers. Mostly software engineers want to be part of the software, of the quantum software part, and also we have physicists and other and students from other disciplines interested in the physics and theoretical part of the science. So I'm also looking forward to the next year, as we want to extend our activities to also focus on education. We want to reach out to more students and even high school pupils in order to be part of quantum computing, and to give them the knowledge and the skills to start knowing about the field, but also raise their interest to consider it as a field of studies or of work someday. So I think that we will also continue to reach some results on that aspect too.
And it's one of the sort of fascinating areas, how there's the sort of different nations fit into the global picture, or people with different backgrounds fit into the sort of the whole quantum 2.0 narrative. And I think a couple of the things you mentioned just there, I think also fit nicely with what Emmanuel and Anishas have also been doing. So obviously, Emmanuel, with the Quantum London initiatives and the fantastic work that you guys have been doing this year as well, if we can dig a little bit deeper into what that looks like, and the sorts of achievements that you've so visibly made.
Yeah, sure. I think for us, 2021 was really the year where we grow our community globally. This started obviously in 2020, when the pandemic hit, we went online, and we got the people that started to attend our meetings were more and more international. So our community has broken the borders of the UK and is now a global community. So that was a great achievement for us. Despite the name remains Quantum London, we are now a global community. And in terms of what we have done, we continued with our formats. So we run webinars where we bring in speakers that can help us unravel some of the intricacies of quantum. We run open discussions similar to this one, but we also invite people from the audience to contribute, just to have any question is good, right? We call them Stamptish, and it's a peer-to-peer discussion because people more ahead in the field, people are new to the field, and we just share expertise. And we also been running a quantum coding community. So there's some people very passionate, and for those who wants to get their hands dirty, there's also that available. But again, for us, it was really going international, and something really successful is the Quantum in Financial Services series, which is hosted by Esperanza Cuenca Gomez, which many of you will know, and because of our backgrounds, mine, Paolo Comos, who's the co-founder, and Hannah Ita-Zardoshi, so I have passed around the group, because we are all working in financial services. That's the area where naturally our network is. So is where we tend to get most of the conversations. But that was very successful. I think it's also due to the fact that the banking industry is kind of a bit ahead of the game. So it's natural to get people from that space to come and talk and share some interesting use cases.
And whilst you're on the theme of sort of global community building and how quantum interacts with business, obviously, Anisha, it's been a real standout year for community as well, with phenomenal progress over the year. So I'd love if you could share a little bit more about the sort of work that community's been doing over the past year.
Yeah, definitely. So as most of you guys know, I'm in high school, and when I started learning quantum computing as a high school student, I noticed that it was pretty hard. There weren't a lot of things, and this was actually a couple years back where there were even less resources than there are today. And I'm glad to see that the resources are growing at an exponential rate, but even the ones that are proliferating are still kind of at a level that requires prerequisites of knowledge that many high schools, even especially in third world and developing countries, don't have access to. They expect you to know like advanced physics, which in my school is not even something you do until the very, very end of your senior year and your last year of high school. So that's why I founded Community, and it's an organization for other students who may not have access to these prerequisites of knowledge, but still want to get started in quantum computing. And we have a method called Learning Without Prerequisites, where we kind of entangle the prerequisites into the actual learning so that people are able to get within the knowledge that they need, but not have to go through some other secondary education to get there. And recently, what we've actually realized is that this learning without prerequisites method is also very applicable to people who want to be on the business side of quantum computing. A lot of people want to work in quantum computing, but they might not want to be a quantum developer. They don't want to be a quantum researcher, but they want to be at the forefront of this technological revolution. And so our learning without prerequisites particularly applies to those people, which is why we're currently working on a business course for business executives and other people like that.
I think this is something that there's an awful lot of good work and thought going into, is how we open up the different pathways for that interaction, whether it's classic business and quantum business, or employers and employees, or mentors and mentees. And it's the sorts of works that everyone's doing is fantastically important, but also that all coming from a slightly different angle but pulling in the same direction. So I do feel that between the panelists we've got here, I think that there's probably good potential to interact on a number of different things. So And you know, if you look at the work you've been doing with the learning courses, Anisha, but obviously it was focused initially on young people, and it's then sort of expanded to you know, businesses and career professionals and everyone else, I think, is, you know, finds really good value with it. And Zahar, I'd like to sort of come in. You mentioned also about sort of encouraging the next generation and providing tools for learning through Q Tunisia. I'd love if we could dig a little bit deeper into that, please.
Yes. So we have already some courses and university programs in Tunisia that integrated quantum computation and quantum programming. And I think that's a very good step. I mean, it even started as early as 2018, 2019, with the rise of quantum computation and the release of a few frameworks for quantum programming. So some professors thought that it would be very interesting to also see what this technology might bring, and they integrated it within a few programs in Tunisia. But we still think that's not enough. And that's why we have founded Q Tunisia as an effort to make the education of quantum computation and programming available to everyone across the country, and anyone who is interested, regardless of their background, to have education in quantum computing. So we start from the very basic notions of quantum computing, from the fundamentals in quantum physics and mathematics for quantum computing, up until quantum programming. And we have seen that there is quite an interest from all backgrounds, not just people who are involved in IT or people who are already studying sciences. We have seen even people coming from arts and coming from economics, who also have been intrigued by the potential of the technology, and also knowing that with everything that the technology is, let's say, so we have seen so many people talking about the potential of the quantum computing to be enhancing or influencing all aspects of technology. So they also want to be in the forefront of the technology and also taking advantage of all the potential of it in order to move up their careers and their interests. So I think that's also a very interesting thing that we have achieved through Q Tunisia, is that we have reached so many communities and so many people from different backgrounds and made the education accessible to everyone. And our events are free and they're inclusive. So we really want to give the opportunity to everyone to learn, and especially to be part of a larger community that would give them the motivation to learn and also apply their knowledge in order to work on projects and products that would, let's say, showcase the importance or the potential of quantum computing. So we also have seen that many universities are now starting to notice this hype about quantum computing, quantum technologies in general, and they want to include formal programs within their curriculum to englobe quantum technologies and nanotechnology. So we hope to see more of these programs popping up in the upcoming years, but of course that's what we may influence, but we don't have like a direct decision to really implement such programs all over Tunisia. But what's important to really focus on right now is that we have formal education for everyone who would like to start a master's in nanotechnology and quantum computation. And I think that's a very good start, but still not enough in order to train a generation of researchers and developers. So that's why one of the things that I would like to focus on in the near future is to really see more efforts towards these programs, and hopefully Tunisia will be one of the leading nations in this technology in Africa, at least.
And it's great to see these initiatives, and I think a lot of it, you know, whilst they're focused on individual locations, the effects are felt far more widely. And that's important because this is such a big body of work that it needs as many bright, intelligent, enthusiastic, brilliant people as we can possibly bring to the equation. And obviously, Emmanuel, with Quantum London, so the style of education you bring is slightly different to maybe the formal courses, but looking at how businesses, for example, look at real world use cases and implement that, and getting the excitement both inside the bubble as well as outside. What sort of, has been the sort of, some success stories from this year?
Yeah, I think so. First of all, our audience is very much professionals. People who they work in different industries. Again, financial services is probably the majority of the people we attract. So we started with us having questions and not so many answers, and that slowly growth into, we found out there were more people in our same position as us. So for us, it's really trying to fill the gap between the technical world and the business world. So we're not tech people. We've been in business for a number of years. So what we try to do is kind of simplify, demystify, or without getting too much into the technicalities, kind of act as translators as much as we can, right? Because it's a complex topic, and we fail to grasp a lot of the intricacies ourselves. But what we try to do is act as translators and really answer the question, what will it mean for the businesses? So being in sort of, in these two worlds, in the middle between the technical world and the business world, and act as translators. And yeah, I think that's been the main effort which we have done from the start, and that's what we are carrying on. It's great to see that there is other people playing and trying to answer the same questions, which triggers a lot of interesting conversations. I think of the Quantum Strategy Institute, for example, is a great research group that are doing a lot of research and trying to answer the very same question. But what we do is we are more of a community, so we try to bring together people, both professionals with questions and also people, experts from the field, trying to answer some of those questions. So I think, yeah, for the foreseeable future, I think that's what we will carry on doing. People in the business world, they just starting to pay attention. And again, some industries are ahead of the game as compared to others, but it's very much still passionate people or innovation people that are trying to understand more. But the business people, they just about now are starting to pay attention. So I can talk about in the insurance world. There is people starting to talk about it. People starting to want it to run for concepts. Some insurance companies have invested in quantum startups, but it's still very early stages. I think there's still a long way to go, especially in the insurance sector, which is the one I know the most. It's still a long way to go. On the other side, it's difficult to grab the interest of the business people unless there are solid business cases behind. And that's the story of my life, because I work in innovation, and my life is trying to get some money to test ideas, prove, validate assumptions with the promise of we might get something in the future, but we're not sure yet. So it's very much the story of my life, but it's very tricky to get the attention of the business people until you have solid business cases. The great news is, we're starting to see more and more of those business cases. If we think of, the articles that come out every other day, there is more people proving, okay, quantum is going to be X-fold better than, the classical. So it's very promising, but still, business people starting to pay attention, not so much excited. They're getting there.
Yeah, and it's I suppose it's a little bit of a tricky sell. We've got something great. We don't know quite when it'll be or what it will look like, but it's going to be good. It works with certain aspects or certain people, but then there's other areas of the business that need a slightly different message. And it's interesting to actually mention about the kind of translating from the business aspects. And I think that translation is important, whether it's interdisciplinary across different areas of business. There's so many different stakeholders with different vantage points. And we see a lot of people that maybe have kind of an inch wide and a mile deep understanding, some people that have an inch deep and a mile wide, and it needs all of the different messages conveyed in that responsible manner, and really sort of brought to the fore. And with regards to translations, there's also the language barriers and things like that as well. And Anisha, I know you've been working hard on some of these initiatives. So if you'd like to tell us a little bit more about some of the projects you've got to help spread the word, if you like.
Yeah, for sure. Really quickly, I think what you mentioned about the language barrier is super, super important. And I think that's why like having these geographical communities is so important because for us, we have a lot of content in English, but I know tons of people have said, oh, like, do you have anything in Bengali or do you have anything in other languages? And we unfortunately just can't translate into every single language possible. And I know that big companies like Kiske have the exact same problem. So having these like smaller or just even just like any community in like a smaller geographical location is very helpful. But yeah, as for our projects, what we have going on right now is we've recently announced our asynchronous courses. So for a long time, we've been doing live courses, whether it be through workshops, summer camps, year-long courses, etc. But we noticed that just given the distribution of people in quantum, there's a lot of people in Asia, there's a lot of people in the United States, a lot of people in England, Europe, and these people, it's hard to get them together in one time and find one instructor who can meet the needs of all of these people. So we found that live learning isn't always the most effective method. And as a result, we've been doing these asynchronous courses, which we've got tons of good feedback on, where people can get them, they can translate them into their own language, and they can view the content at whatever pace works for them, whatever works with their schedule, whatever works with their time zone and their preferences.
And I think yeah, that being able to learn at your own time and in a way that's comfortable, and finding that right method is important. And it's interesting actually seeing the evolution of different content and training courses and things like that, that there are some things that you don't realize you don't know until you find out about them, which is something that gives great stimulus to the industry. And that having the breadth of people around the world with an interest, it just means that actually we can bring these different skills to the table and be able to translate things and convey messages. So I would just like to open up to Ricky, who had a question from Sahar's initial opening gambit. So Ricky, if you'd like to come and take the mic and ask your question, please.
Hey, how are you? So my question refers to the first, what Sahar said in the beginning, when you asked about the recent year in quantum, and Sahar said that there was a quantum product that was released, and I'm just interested, I'm curious to know which product it was. Thank you.
Okay, so at least there were 2 products released this year by Cambridge Quantum. First is in quantum machine learning, so it's QNLP. It's already available for everyone who would like to start experimenting with quantum machine learning algorithms on their platform. And there's also Ticket from them. So Ticket would be a product that would make developers give the access to developers to create algorithms, quantum algorithms, and run them on different devices, regardless of the technology of the device. And there's also a recent product that they have released in quantum cryptography. So I think they're all in early stages of development, but they're already available, and Ticket is already open source. So for everyone who would like to contribute to the development of their platform. So yeah, I think Cambridge Quantum already has got 3 products worth following, and I can see that they will be one of the first commercially available products, and they will be of so much use within the next few years.
Sorry, trouble. I'm muting there for a second. And I think as well, there's also things like random number generators that have also found a commercial home as well. And whilst we're looking at the things that have sort of come up this year, and whilst you're on my screen, Sahar, as well, what's your view in terms of what we can expect for next year?
So I think we have already seen a few companies putting their roadmaps for the development of their products. And for example, we have seen IBM putting its roadmap for the next 10 years. So we are expecting for the number of qubits to even increase within the next year to more than 400 qubits within the quantum processor. So other also companies are willing to invest within the technology. So already this year we have seen so many industries integrating quantum computing with within their R&D projects. So, for example, we have seen BMW releasing a challenge even to explore the applications of quantum computing in the automotive industry. So I think that with this initiative, we'll be seeing so many companies also willing to explore what quantum computing might bring to their products and their services. So as we can see that the development of quantum technologies, both on the software and the hardware aspects, is going in parallel, but also we have seen so many companies willing to invest in the technology, because I think they have seen how the internet, for example, has changed how we live today. They have seen social media also influencing our lives in a very remarkable way, and they don't want to miss out on what's coming up with quantum technologies and quantum computing in particular. So, for example, you might hear many people saying, researchers and also developers, thinking that within the next 5 to 10 years, we will be seeing a quantum industry being established. So that means that we have an entire chain of research, product, and commercial use. But I think that it might be even earlier than that, because the development of the technology, both on the theoretical side, but also on the experimental side, is really accelerating very, very fast. And the adoption from businesses is really also growing in a very fast rate. So I think that within the few next years, even less than 5 years, then we will be seeing very interesting products coming up from this technology. And the research is also continuing to grow even more. And I think that it will even exceed the potential that we are seeing today, because we may expect quantum computing to have certain applications, and we may foresee which products we will be seeing within the next years. But what's beyond that, I think that's the really interesting part, is what we don't see today. That's what would be the big surprise coming up from this technology.
And I must admit, actually, from the years that I've spent in quantum, things always seem to happen a little bit quicker than expected, but not quite in the way that you expect them as well. There's always a twist in the tail, and it's actually a fascinating balancing act that we need to sort of nurture that excitement and really kindle that, whilst also making sure that we don't let the hype run away with things, or promises get made that are irresponsible. And it's a delicate balancing act, but and you know, whether it's sort of, you know, quantum springs and quantum winters and bubbles and things like that, it's a message that needs very careful fine tuning and to really maximize the work that we're looking to put in. And I've just seen you on mute. I'd love to bring you on.
No, that's something I talk about very frequently. Quantum specifically, but more in general with innovation. I think you need to set clear expectations when you talk to the business people in terms, you know. So first of all, my projection is we will see more and more companies getting their hands dirty and trying it out, right? And I always advise, you know, people I work with, until you see it for real, you know, if it doesn't come to life, you know, you will not be able to understand this fully. So the great way is, you know, to run proof of concepts, where, you know, take someone who can advise you and run some of those proof of concepts and see it's for real, right? So we'll see more and more people doing that proof of concepts, but you need to set the expectations up front. So it's not like you will be in production in 1 year with something which is 10 times better than what you currently have, but you should still do it. Because, you know, the learning you will get in the process is absolutely worth the effort, and is invaluable. You know, puts you ahead of the competition. So you will need to set the expectations on, you're not gonna get business outcome straight away, but there is this learning process you will get involved, which is going to put you in front of the rest of your competition. I think that's that setting the expectations clear is vital when you engage with business people, and try to convince them in running out some of those early stages tests and experiments.
And I think within that as well, we see the kind of people coming into quantum with an offensive mindset, and those with a defensive mindset. And by offensive, I mean that they've got a clear strategy of what they're looking to achieve, and the defensive is more the sort of fear of missing out a little bit. And I think that can lead to dangerous decisions being made, where perhaps people are making investments, whether capital investments or infrastructure investments, that maybe haven't been thought through in the same way that the offensive aspects are. And I'd love, whilst we've got you on the screen, Em, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your sort of your crystal ball and looking forward to next year or further beyond.
Yeah, I think again, the trajectory is clear, right? So there is technological advancement that will not stop. There's more people coming into the space, both in terms of vendors, startups. There will be more people get their hands dirty with the technology. So this is so easy to predict, right? Because that's a clear trajectory there. There's an easy prediction to be made. Something which was not mentioned by Sahar, I think also the number of public investments. I think it's going to go up. I think we will see the market maturing in the sense of the investment market. So venture capitals playing a bigger role, investing more into the technology and the companies. I think we'll start seeing a bit of merge and acquisition. I think this is all physiological in markets that are evolving. So these are all easy predictions. And then on when we will have, the quantum computer, which is going to solve all our problems, that's hard for everyone to tell. But I want to echo your comment, John. We always try to underestimate the pace of change. So maybe sooner than we expect.
I think it's interesting actually over this year that the number of investments haven't changed drastically, but there's been a few headline large investments that have sort of made those figures a bit lopsided compared to where they were before. And it's interesting because you need those kind of flagship moments to really create the narrative, but it's also important that the next generation of possible unicorns can be founded, and I suppose whilst the potential investment is growing, it needs careful allocation if that's going to come to fruition. So it's not an easy challenge, and I don't know whether there's anything that could be implemented to ensure that, but getting the right mindset I think is really crucial. And Anisha, I'd love to hear a little bit more about your views on what the future holds.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely agree with a lot of what was said before. I think that the innovation is going to keep happening. These companies are going to keep adopting quantum. And I think even though we haven't seen it yet, I think there will be that point where there will become a lot of VC and investor interest in quantum. And there already is, but I think where it really starts to take off is what we'll be seeing in very soon years. But more so than that, I think that we are at the very, very early stages of like this quantum curve right now. But one day I think that there's going to be a point where there's so much hype surrounding it, like kind of what we're seeing in cryptocurrency right now. You see that so many people are just getting onto it because it's part of the bandwagon. And while there is a lot of intrinsic value in cryptocurrency, a lot of the people who are in it don't necessarily understand that value. And I think eventually quantum will come to the same point where there's a lot of people who are in it for hype. And we get very excited because we have so much attention that has never been seen before in the quantum space. Because right now it's small, but then it becomes huge. But that obviously can't last forever, because without like matching their value to what's really there, those people eventually go. But I think that once we hit that point, we can really start getting like the true meaningful investment that will propel this industry like very much forward.
Yeah, and it's that sort of responsible messaging and having a tangible benefit and demonstrating tangible benefit. It's so important, and where it's so new, there are lessons to be learned from, whether it's crypto or AI or the .coms, but there's no sort of quantum specific handbook on this because it hasn't been done. And interestingly, actually, we've got Paul Grimm with us today, speaking of messaging and translating, who actually created the spell check across different languages. So someone that's been involved with these challenges before. So I'd love to get Paul to join us when he's able to. But just sort of coming back onto those predictions, Sahar, if we can just expand on some of those really, and look at what that longer term future might hold.
Okay, so I think that, and this may be a personal opinion, to be honest. So I think that what's really stopping us from reaching the potential of quantum computing at this point is an engineering challenge more than a scientific challenge, because I think that we have what proves that quantum computing works. We have the protocols, we have already established quantum algorithms, we have seen so many companies and research institutes coming up with new algorithms and new ways of solving problems based on quantum physics and quantum computing. But it's a fact that the control of quantum systems is hard. It's not easy to really reach such low temperatures and to have like the full control of atoms, ions, photons, etc. Any quantum particle that's involved within the development of quantum technologies. But I think that engineering challenges have always been there, but we have always overcome them. So I think it's just a matter of time that we reach the solution. And as long as one approach is not physically impossible to establish or to solve, then I think there's always a way to come around and really perfect that technology. So I think that as we have seen so many researchers and developers having interest in quantum technology, so there is like a huge migration towards this field when it comes to the researchers and also investments, and eventually we'll reach a point where the engineering challenges will be overcome and the technologies that are currently being investigated will finally reach their full efficiency, and the quantum computer will be available for commercial use. So I'm very optimistic about what the future holds for this technology, because I know that scientifically speaking, it's proven to be working. It's just a matter of time that we find the solutions for the engineering problems that we might encounter currently. And as you have mentioned before, John, this technology is really accelerating so fast. So at any point, we may expect any research institutes or company coming up and saying that we have solved this problem and now there is a technology that's working. And as we have already seen throughout the years, so many technologies are under investigation for the construction of a fault-tolerant quantum computer. And maybe in the end, we will have all this technology working. And to each technology, it will have its advantages for certain problems and disadvantages for others. So I think it's always a very positive thing to see the research going towards many directions. And in the end, maybe we'll be meeting at some point and maybe not. And in all cases, we will have a quantum computer that's working. So I think that it's just a matter of time that we reach that point.
Yeah, and I think mentioning the different types of potential quantum computers is always fascinating, because the evolution of individual technologies, they don't happen at the same pace. So it might be that for a year or two everyone thinks it's going to be superconducting, and then maybe an ion trap or annealers or whatever it might be. But I think that looking at the situation, there could be numerous different winners of the race, if you like, and actually have different applications. So it might be that a photonic or an analog system works better on a trader's desk. Some of the systems that require millikelvin or cryogenic systems may be better. You're probably not going to have that sitting on your desk, but accessible by the cloud. And and the engineering the challenges that come with this. It's interesting because I always think that one of the things that potentially quantum computers can do quite well is chemical analysis, material science, and one of the challenges around hardware is more and more sophisticated materials. So I'm really excited by when we've got a sufficiently powerful enough quantum computer to make the next generation of materials required for the next quantum computer, and how to improve that, and creating kind of a cycle where there's continuous improvement by the technology as it evolves. That area really fascinates me, and obviously it's hugely important when it comes to how this is rolled out to businesses. And Emmanuel, how do you see that kind of the scaling of technology in conjunction with businesses, and how that implementation or adoption plays out?
It's a very tough question. You know, allow me a joke. We will need a quantum computer to answer that question, right?
Probably.
Yeah. No, jokes aside, you know, I don't own a crystal ball, so it's very hard to predict. But you know, again, the trajectory is there. Maybe let me answer your question with another question, kind of question. So, I mean, Sahar, she said she's very optimistic. So am I. Very passionate about the topic, but also I'm very excited. I think we touched on this briefly before, but I'm very excited about what we don't know yet. I think it is exciting because we know there are things coming around the corner which are about to happen, both from technical point of view, but also in terms of the use cases. So that's what really motivates me to get interested into the topic, is what is about to happen. And there's this promise that there's a lot still to come. A lot has been happening in the last few years, but a lot is still out there, just about to happen. So that's what really should get people excited.
And Anisha, obviously, it's your generation that's really going to be powering this forward. So, where's the sort of the greatest excitement that you see? What is it that you're really looking forward to in the future?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I'm just more excited to see like other people get into it, because I feel like it's just been it's been small, but we're growing so fast. And I know that now I have like other people in my own school who 2 years ago didn't know anything about quantum computing, but now they've like taken courses online, and now they're hearing about it in the news, and they're hearing about like the world of quantum and getting excited about it as well. So that's what's really exciting for me. And more than that, I think that the applications are just getting bigger and bigger. Like we're seeing quantum automobiles, we're seeing quantum, like obviously machine learning, and we're just seeing it integrate with so many different industries. So it's always nice to see how people can apply quantum to new sectors and what that we can make of that.
Yeah, and I think this is I think one of the fascinating things with quantum is that people see it as so technologically driven, and it obviously is, but it's also the people behind it that make it happen, and there's fascinating stories on both sides. So I think that the evolution or the interplay there is something that we've got. There's a lot in store, and how that pans out is something that I think we're all hugely excited about. And obviously coming from the research background, Sahar, but also being involved on the community aspects as well, where do you see these things feeding into each other most acutely?
So I truly believe that researchers are the people who should be explaining quantum computing. And why is that? Because it's not an easy subject to talk about, and especially not a very intuitive topic to democratize and make everyone understand what the technology is talking about. So I really hope to see more researchers being involved within the education, but also the outreach activities, in order to give the correct answers to the questions coming from different people from different backgrounds. So we also do not want to see this rupture between the industry and the research, but also between the research and the community development for quantum computation and science in general, I would say. So I think that's one of the things that I personally work on. I want to be a researcher in quantum computing because I really want to understand how this technology is working, and I want to contribute to the development of this technology and this industry eventually. But on the other side, I understand that the more people we get, the more skilled researchers and developers we have, the faster we can get to results. And that's why I want to bridge these two worlds. I want to be the researcher who understands what they are talking about, but also be the person who is available to communicate that information to a larger audience. Because as we may, of course, understand that with the difference of audience, there is a different speech that you give. So it's always best to have a person who understands what they are talking about to talk about science, especially with the hype that we see regarding quantum computing and nanotechnology. So I really believe that researchers should be in the forefront of education and outreach activities. So I hope that I'm fulfilling my let's say my activity very well, and I will continue down this road in order to bridge quantum community development, but also quantum research.
And I think, speaking of the sort of where technology and people interact, we've got Rupesh Srivastava with us today, who sort of spans both of those things really nicely. So Rupesh, if you'd like to join us for a moment, please. Oh, Rupes, we've got no sound.
The joys of Zoom.
Can you hear me now?
We can do, yes.
Ah, brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the world actually prefers, version 1 or version 2. So there you go. It's great to see. It's great to see you all. Yeah, it was great to see you all. I just wanted to quickly say this because this is my community, and it's a global community, and you're all fantastic. So it's a privilege to be here, John. Thank you.
And yeah, just in terms of that sort of the interaction with the sort of where technology and people and business meets, it's kind of the sweet spot for you. So would love to sort of evolve things a little bit further.
Yeah, I've been listening to the conversation with great interest, and of course I've been following you all. Not quite stalking, but close to it. And seeing what you're doing and what impacts you're making. And the question I always go back to is, why are we doing what we're doing? And it's for people. So I think we get entrenched in conversations, and these are important conversations, depending on the audience you're talking to. And I think that gets lost in translation, okay? So if you're talking to governments, you know, they're interested in being voted in again. They're interested in being popular. They're interested in jobs. They're interested in growing the economy, all the things that we kind of expect. If you talk to researchers, they're interested obviously in the science, and they're interested in ensuring that the science is trusted. And that's kind of key. But when you're talking about this is all about people. And this is all about impact and changing lives. Everyone here today is creating an impact and changing somebody's life, in whatever context that is. And for me, it's really important that torch, that flame gets passed along the generations. And that spirit that we started off with, you know, so I always say this, which is, you know, the laws of quantum physics, the laws of the universe do not discriminate, and neither should we. And the way we treat people, the way we've got so much more work to do than just the mountains to climb in science and technology development, and getting business interested and teaching the skills and keeping it honest. But where are all the other people too? So the people, that we call in the world who have disabilities or physical challenges or mental challenges. In some areas of the world, women don't get the same chances that men do. All of these things, if we want the best ideas, if we want the best innovations, we need room for all of these people and all of these forces. And otherwise it becomes sort of one color, or the same set of voices talking about the same set of things. And quantum, I know I hate to say this, but quantum is a danger of getting boring if we all say the same things over and over again. And the point is, quantum isn't boring. There is a goal for me, very much. There is a golden era of discoveries as we get together and combine in many different ways, especially in science, but especially in shape education as well. And those are social sciences, humanities, arts, people, and economy. It's about creatives. So there's a project, that I was there at the start of. I don't claim any other credit than enabling it to happen, but it's quantum and music. So quantum computing and music, and getting the creatives and building tools so that they can create a whole brand new rhythm, harmony, noise, whatever you want to call it, that impacts us all. So that's what I have to say anyway.
And thank you, Rupesh. And I'd love to offer that out to the panel. I could see you all sort of reacting as Rupesh was talking. So I'd love to open it out to whoever would like to start off.
Well, it's very, very hard to comment. No, but just the first thing that comes to mind, I think you gave me a couple of thoughts. One, while you were talking, I pictured this image of explorers going out and exploring uncharted territories. I think that's something I think often when it's about quantum. But I also I'm a strong believer of breaking the silos and allowing different cultures, different people to cross-pollinate ideas and collaborate. I think that's one of the things I've been preaching for quite a long time in my small innovation career. So I completely agree with Rupesh. We need more people involved, also different perspectives, and breaking some of the barriers, allowing more people into the conversation. That's where innovation comes very often, from just breaking those silos and combining and joining ideas. So yeah.
I think just actually while she was talking, I sort of thinking about the panel and everyone's sort of from different countries and backgrounds, and it's really good to see, and it feels so second nature being in the quantum community and so normal, and then you kind of have to sometimes refocus and realize that may not be the norm everywhere, and you're sort of in a lucky space around that. And Sahar and Anisha, I'd love to sort of bring one of you two into to further these aspects.
Okay, I would like to start first. So I come from Tunisia, which is, let's say, a relatively small country in Africa, and we have seen our talents leaving the country to go to bigger companies and to go to, let's say, really see their skill set being beneficial or in realizing products and really accelerating businesses. So I think that what really needs to be happening for our country is the exact opposite. We would like to develop our skill set in Tunisia, but also retain that in Tunisia, because I truly believe that if we are going to also miss out on the upcoming technological revolution, which is the quantum technologies, then I think that would be a very hard time for nations such as ours. And the truth is, we really have some really good skills coming up from Tunisia, and you can see Tunisians actually working in really big companies and really contributing and different research institutes. And I think that once we have once the government, let's say, or the important decision makers in the country really take it seriously to retain the talent within the country, I think that I truly believe that that Tunisians can really build something out of the technology that we're talking about, which is quantum computing right now. But that would be quite a difficult road, I would say. So I think that so much more effort should be directed and focused within that direction. And the positive thing is that we see so many professors and so many government offices that are taking this seriously, and they want to really invest in the talent of Tunisians in order to take benefit from their skills to finally contribute to the development of our country. But let's see what happens. And just to talk about a more, let's say, extended perspective, which is from Africa, let's say. So many communities are also doing the same. They understand that this could be a very good chance in order to invest in their talent, their national talent, and also collaborate with other countries in order to be part of the technological revolution that's coming up very soon. So we have seen efforts coming up from different countries, but mainly in North Africa and South Africa. So I would say North Africa from Egypt to Morocco, but also in the southern side of the continent. But Africa is more than 50 countries, so that's really, really low. We want to see more people contributing. We want to really invest and bet on this, on the talent within the continent in order to have a roadmap of how we can develop our nations. In the lack of resources, because really, if we don't invest in our talents, then we don't really have much to invest in for the upcoming years. So I really hope to see that happening very soon. And all of this is, I'm sure it will be more successful once we focus on the national talents, but also on international collaborations, because I think that we are a complementary continent. You can see that the resources are not really, let's say, fairly disposed, but once we collaborate together, I think we can achieve much more than individual efforts.
And that hits on an interesting challenge, actually, that and I think it probably extends to most countries, no matter how mature they are along their sort of quantum journey, but how you're able to harness what's available in other countries, but not reduce the capacity within a country. And I was at a One Quantum Africa event recently, and the phrase was coined, you know, go and fish in you know, Europe or America and bring the fish back to Africa. And there's definitely a balancing act there, but there's an awful lot of goodwill to be able to make these things happen. And obviously, Anisha, I know that the community have got some fantastic initiatives in terms of, and as an organization that was born a global entity, of kind of integrating different communities and different people and bringing that contributory work together. So I'd love to hear your thoughts a little bit on the topic as well, please.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think as both of you mentioned, there is a very fine line, or like a balancing act to be done between the sort of brain drain effect that Sahar was talking about and international collaboration. And while they might seem inherently like exclusive to each other, I don't think that's necessarily the case. It just starts with having each country build their foundations, like Sahar's doing with Q Tunisia, and having that exist as a base layer and incentive for this person to stay in their home country. And a lot of times it's difficult when it comes to wages, when it comes to opportunity. But I think that the more we funnel into these like regional and national communities, the more there is that like lingering incentive to stay, and there's a reduced incentive to go abroad. And I think that due to the internet and all like the fact that we are talking on multiple continents right now through Zoom, I think that international collaboration can still happen. We can have those communities in these individual countries all collaborate with each other. We don't really need to siphon individuals to foreign communities. We can have collaboration at the community level.
I think that's an important thing, actually. There is the opportunity to work across the globe, but use that to stimulate different aspects locally. And it's something that does require work and does need a lot of thought. But we live in a time where it's more possible than perhaps it has been previously. And whilst we're sort of talking about collaborating and communicating globally, we're lucky to have Paul Grimm with us, who invented not just the touchscreen, but also spell check in multiple languages. So I think, Paul, if we can bring you in, it seems like a perfect segue. Hi, Paul, are you there?
Hello.
Hey, Paul, how are you?
Oh, fine. Hey, very exciting, John. Thank you for putting this together. I can't get my video up. Well, let me see here. Oh, there we go. Oh, there we go. Wow, I got my head spinning, as I always does when I attend your event. Thank you, everyone. I wrote down some of the names: Sakar, Amisha, and Canella. You guys are all excellent. Thank everyone for being here. I have so many things to tell you about, but I didn't want to interrupt the ongoing conversation. But I would like to see a solution team to develop solutions from people from all over the world. We can work together. Now, I'd like to bring us a little closer to some coding talk, as I've been working for tic-tac-toe, for example, but I'll go through this very quickly because I know time is short. In order to create a solution for tic-tac-toe, you have to know how tic-tac-toe is played. And not only that, you have to know the strategic places within that game. For example, slot number 5, if you take from top to bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 to 7, 8, 9 slots. Slot 5, which is the center point, like in bingo, is the most important spot. So what you need to do when you're coding this in classical language, I can do that. I could code that probably in 2 or 3 days. But to do this in quantum, I've been scratching my head. First of all, there are like 5 or 6 different ways you can come up with a solution. But should I use 9 qubits, or should I use 1 qubit and have 9 rotations on that qubit? Or, so then you can get into QML, which I'd like to investigate. You could use QML to train, winning at quantum tic-tac-toe, and then store that and then use that. But anyway, so I'd like to talk to you about entanglement, just kind of give you guys I know everybody has their own image of entanglement, but think of your car. There are times when you want to go forward. You want to go to work, or you want to go to the restaurant, you drive to the restaurant, use forward. Then there are times when you want to go backward. You want to reverse and back up the car. But guess what? There's a third state. And that's when you don't want to go forward, you don't want to go backward, you put your car in neutral. And you just want to have it sit there and heat the car up while it's cold. And you don't want to move it. Anyway, you see, there's 3 states. So that's what quantum has, that third state. So let me kind of relate that to entanglement now. What you do with entanglement is you have a qubit and you put the qubit in neutral, because it's not in a 1 state. You can set it in 1 state or a 0 state. But let's just say when you use the Hadamard, or you put it in the superposition, you're really saying, I want to reset it. It's like hitting the reset button. You've just done a calculation. You came up with an answer. Okay, your answer, you have it. Now you want to say, okay, reset it back to neutral. And then I'm going to apply an instruction called a C0. And that's going to take and copy the Hadamard to the second qubit. So in order to do an entanglement, you need 2 qubits, but you can have more. You can entangle 3 or 4 or 6 or 10. But anyway, I'll leave that there. but it's difficult to design. You go from the problem state that you would like to solve to the quantum state. And let me say, as most of you had talked about, it's very difficult to learn. You're dealing with spherical trigonometry, linear algebra, and then by the way, the difference between classical programming and quantum programming. Classical programming has the memory there. You put your name, address, your phone number, and slots in memory. But in quantum, you actually create your memory point. When you create the qubit, you're actually creating one memory bit. So think about that now, how you're going to control all of that. And there are a number of environments when you want to, I'm trying to learn classic Q. Google has an environment, and then IBM's environment. So I focus more on how I solve the problem than I worry about programming the language, because I know I can program the language. I programmed Intel assembly language to do the spelling check work for the world. And I didn't realize how significant it was until the cell phones came out. But let me look over my notes here. So anyway, I think I'll let you go ahead and let someone else talk, but I'm always happy to get involved. John, I'm sorry I missed the last couple of sessions because I've been traveling and the holidays and so on, but pleasure to meet everyone and say hello. One other thing, some of this gets translated to text, your speech to text. So it's good to speak slower and distinctly, because so the conversion to text will work more properly. I don't use it. I don't have it on the phone. I don't even know if it exists. I think it does in Zoom, but in any event, you try to speak slower and more distinctly so that can work. Anyway, pleasure meeting everyone. I hope to see you all in the future.
Thanks, Paul. It's always good to have you on board. And the previous events are on YouTube. We will be getting some software for that, but whether it'll quite work with my accent, no matter how slowly I speak, I can't be certain. And Emma, I noticed you just unmiked. Was that?
No, it was about a joke about my accent, which is surely stronger and put those algorithms as a strain. I'm always struggling with Google. It doesn't understand me, doesn't like me, or Alexa, let's say.
And Sahar, I noticed you on mic. You can save us with a better accent than we've got.
I felt concerned too because I speak so fast. Be it in English, French, Arabic, I speak so fast anyway. So I didn't need to take that into consideration. But I truly want to also comment on what Paul has just said, which is how actually very different to think in a quantum way rather than a classical way. So we understand by now that there are two different approaches to solving the same problem, which is the classical approach that is more intuitive to us as people, I would say. But for the quantum programming and quantum algorithms, generally speaking, it's a totally different way. And I think that's why we truly need to understand the theory behind the experiments. And that actually starts by understanding the science of quantum information science, but also to take the time to really understand and analyze and really grasp that knowledge before starting to instead of just going straight ahead to programming. And I think that's also what he mentioned as I'm interested in knowing how to solve the problem instead of coding the problem. And I think that's a very important step in learning about quantum computing, because it's a totally different thing to think in terms of entanglement, superposition, and quantum states, and also quantum measurement, which is not a straightforward notion to understand and to grasp. So I truly say to everyone who is interested to learning about quantum computing and programming is to take the time to understand the theory behind it and to really know how this technology works at the fundamental level. So starting from the quantum states and the control of quantum systems, in order to build the foundation, in order to reach that point when you can come up with your algorithms and to really code with whatever language, of course, you find yourself comfortable with. So yeah, I truly think that what he just shared with us about programming the tic-tac-toe game is very interesting, because I think it's a very fundamental exercise in classical programming, but it might not be as straightforward in quantum programming. Yeah, that raises so many questions, and I'm very intrigued to know what his solution is.
And Anisha, as someone else who's sorry, Paul.
Well, I just wanted to make a quick comment. I've explored two solutions. One is kind of a cascading logic gate, whereas like the steel ball drops down through a bunch of nails and ends up in a slot. So you can use, by the way, there are rotation gates and there are logic gates. Now the books there must be 6 or 7 logic gates, XOR and or not exclusive and so on, but not all of them are coded in quantum in quantum. So only 2, the CNOT and the NOT and so on. Or if you're going to add 2 register together, you do an OR, and that will give it, that's addition. And multiplication is shifting left or right on the register. So I've done all that in assembly language, but anyway, I'll leave it there. The other approach is to use 3 because tic-tac-toe is in 3 boxes, but it's 3 columns and 3 rows, and then 2 diagonals. So you can use the 3 boxes as a clue. So but then you have to manage like which box, row, column you're in, and so on. I have a lot of information about it if people would like to discuss it a little further and investigate it, or even put together a solution. But yes, anyway, I'll leave it there. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul. And Anisha is someone who's obviously got a background both in the hands-on coding, but also the education around that. I'd love to bring you in, please.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I think that having experience in like this coding aspect, it helps in education for sure, but I think that it gives us a very technical viewpoint and kind of like very almost like pessimistic viewpoint of like the timeline of quantum computing and almost like where it's going to go. Whereas you see that the people who work in business or the people who are looking to get into quantum have more like optimistic timelines. So yeah, I mean, I think that generally like the people who code are great teachers, but I think that even if you don't, you'd still be an amazing educator in quantum computing, because I know tons of people who are particularly on the community team don't really have that much technical experience prior to joining us, but they're still doing a phenomenal job teaching things like linear algebra, which isn't really quantum coding, but they're able to apply it to the principles of quantum in a way that maybe someone like me would have like a little bit more difficulty doing, since I view it a lot more narrowly than they do.
And I think that kind of brings us back to the kind of the messaging aspect and having lots of different ideas coming together. And I think a lot of it with quantum as well, because nobody knows everything. Nobody knows very much or a very big part of the whole picture. Everyone's got their own small part of the picture. If it's a bigger part, it's not necessarily to the same depth. And it's hugely important to get the right sort of narrative and be able to convey the message in that sort of responsible manner. That's hugely important. And Em, I did see you on mic. I don't know whether
No, yeah, I wanted to comment on Paul's as well. So I'm not able to provide him with any advice on how to solve his challenge. Funny enough, during my degree, I did build a tic-tac-toe on a classical computer, which you could play over the network. But I will not be able to do it in quantum, so no can help there. But when he was talking, that brought some other thoughts and something we do try to explain to the people that get in touch with us. But it's all around the fact. Quantum computers, as we all know, we might not use them to run our Windows machines, right? So they are not a classical computer on steroids is a fundamental new way of calculating and storing, processing information. So when we were talking about tic-tac-toe, I was thinking about, the kind of problems we want to solve is more around the optimization, simulation, machine learning. So it's a great educational challenge building a tic-tac-toe, but it reminds me of the fact that we do when we talk to people, we always tend to emphasize the fact that, this is not about your computer on steroids or running Windows or having one on your desk anytime soon. It's more around solving big, simulation, optimization, and machine learning problems.
Yeah, and I think it seems as though I'm the only one that hasn't programmed tic-tac-toe here, so I might need some of the courses that you guys offer.
I also haven't. Don't worry.
But obviously we're sort of coming towards the sort of the final episode of the last episode of the year, and I'd love if each of you could leave us with one sort of final thought for everyone to take away with. So. Anisha, you're on my screen. Why don't we start with you?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think that the industry is coming up against a bunch of changes. Like, we're early. There's a lot that's going to change very soon, and I feel like it's all going to happen very fast. But one thing that I do hope is that the community stays as strong as it is right now, and instead of breaking up the communities for those new people, we bring it in, and the entire world, just as a community, grows bigger. And yeah, I think all of us will be key parts of that.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's a really important point. The foundations we're building now, we need to build them strong, and then take the implement the best of the non-quantum worlds into quantum, but keep that sort of heart and soul and all of the good things, and just add other good things on top. So yeah, 100% agree on that one. And Sahar, I could see you smiling away during that as well. So do you want to come in and help us bookend the year?
Of course, yeah. So this year, as I said in the beginning, was a very good year for the development of quantum computing, but also for the extension of the community. And I think I feel very lucky to be among the first, let's say, comers into this field from my country. And I truly look forward to more contributions to make to the science, but also to the community development in my country, but also on the scale of Africa and even beyond. So I truly look forward to the next year, and I'm sure that so many great milestones will be reached also within the next year. And yeah, I think we are still now at the point where the quantum technology will be taking off, and I think I'm very grateful to be at this stage of the technology, because I have witnessed the development of it throughout so many years, and also throughout so many stages. So yeah, and thank you very much, John, for organizing the event, and I congratulate you for your effort, because you have been organizing the Entangled discussions each week for the year. So I think that's a very good effort, and you have done a very good job. And thank you very much again for bringing us together every week. You have done a really good job. Thank you.
Thank
and
you.
all the best to everyone for your work and your research. And I'm really grateful to be part of this community, and let's keep in touch and let's help each other grow even bigger.
And I think my role is easy. I just get really interesting people to come on and talk, so I get the best seat in the house. But I think, yeah, you're right. It is exciting times, both for the individuals and the communities within quantum, and fascinating to see how things evolve. And if you'd like to come in and just help us bookend the year.
Oh, absolutely. So again, thanks, John, for inviting me. It's always a pleasure, and great also to share some of the thoughts with the other panelists. And in terms of wrapping up, just a summary of what we discussed really tonight. For me, is the pace is just going to accelerate. It's not a matter of if anymore. It's just a matter of when. But the pace is accelerating. So watch out the space. This might be faster than we think today. And then for the companies who want to approach the quantum, there are things that can be done today. Running some experiments, trying to get their hands dirty. That's absolutely something people should be doing. Is put you ahead of the competition. So why not? I think businesses start thinking seriously about dipping into the space, and that's what I anticipate will happen next year. And there is different ways. There is vendors out there who can do that, but also, the communities that do play a massive and a vital role into, spreading the word, educating people. So I will encourage people to join the communities and to take part in the conversation as well.
Yeah, 100% agree with that, and I think it's there are those sort of technological and business milestones, but they happen through people. And then that's an important focus. And I'd just like to thank all of our guests today. So Sahar, Anisha, Emmanuel, and also for the audience participation from Ricky, Rupesh, and Paul, and everyone else that was here, both today and throughout the year. One of the best things that I found from the talk is actually how people have found it accessible and welcoming and are happy to take the mic, where at other talks they may not even write in the chat box. So onwards and upwards for next year. We've got plenty more to come, both with Entangled discussions, as well as a lot of other initiatives that we're looking to bring into play. So if you follow Entangled Positions on LinkedIn, that's the best place to keep up with everything. But other than that, it just remains to thank all of today's guests, all of the other fantastic guests we've had over the year, and of course the audience support for and stimulating interaction. So thanks everyone. It's been a pleasure as always.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye.
you. Bye.
Thank you.